evening, everybody. Warm welcome to you all. Tonight, as you guys know, it's a special guest presentation this evening. We've got the wonderful Christopher James. You can call him Chris James or Chris. And he is the pioneer and the man behind A Warrior Calls. And if you don't know what A Warrior Calls is, well, Chris is here this evening to explain that to us. Just a bit of a background. I met Chris back in 2020 and we began working together with another guy called Jesse on a project called Earth United. And it was all about trying to unite the earth, everybody on the earth, to be a powerful force to be reckoned with against the systems that we're up against. Okay. It was many months that we were working tirelessly to get this project up and running, and it was very popular. But unfortunately, it did die out. It dissipated for whatever reason, one reason or another. But Chris continued to push forward everything that he's doing. He's based in Canada and he's got a lot of experience in the lawful legal realms, helping people in all different kinds of ways. And I'm hoping that this evening is going to be very beneficial to you all and to us as a community to not only find out what's been going on in Canada, but to cross-reference the similarities between us here in the UK and in Canada. And of course, there's obviously members within our community who are from Canada as well. So hopefully they'll get to enjoy this evening and track along with us. Warm welcome to you, Chris. Thank you for joining us this evening. We're very grateful for you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. Why don't we just start by giving a bit of an introduction? Who are you, and what are you about? What's a Warrior Calls about? How that came into being?
Well, I never thought that I was supposed to be in this position, but maybe I chose to be this way. I'm a very spiritual man. I'm not much on religion, but as far as my creator goes, I realize the most important thing I'd like to say off the top of this here is that love is the most important thing. Love is why I've done what I've done, the journey that I've been on. I started out in the music and entertainment industry. It was my passion. For many years, I worked as a recording engineer, producer, and then through different, as history started to move along with technology, I saw an incredible opportunity, and I was launching a $1.5 billion initiative back in 2001. And for those of you that are familiar with Lord of the Rings, Alan Lee, he reached out to me after I sent a document on my business proposal for the music and entertainment industry that was not only going to save it, but it was going to generate billions of dollars to go back into every single country and really change this world and show the world in real time how we need to act and operate our businesses and interact with one another, basically ultimately on love. So what happened was is that my life's work ended up getting destroyed. That's when I first came head to heads with the Federal Reserve, so to speak. I knew nothing about banking. I knew nothing about law. And when that happened, it destroyed me financially with people that I went to help create this initial funding. I vowed to find out what the hell's going on. I mean, I always tell everyone I've got a PhD in failure. That's how I've learned so much over the years, School of Hard Knocks. But through this journey that I've gone on, after my collapse of my initiative. Again, there's still nothing like it today in this world. It was good. Microsoft and Cisco partnered with me immediately. It was going to generate, without even breaking a sweat, $20 billion a year. And now today it would be well over $100 billion a year. So I knew that I had was something that was very powerful, and yet I was still naive. I knew nothing. Like I said, in the music industry, when people are wrapped up in their own worlds and their businesses and their lives and their family, they don't take the time to really understand what is going on. And I never understood the creation of money. So when my life's work got destroyed, I wanted to find out what the hell is going on, because I knew that what I put together was an incredible business model, a turnkey application that could be launched in any country around the world and bring enormous light, truth, and love using the most powerful medium in the world, the music and entertainment industry. After that happened, I got into commercial lending and I started to work with law enforcement, and massive amounts of fraud were coming across my desk that I was recognizing. And even the RCMP, that's the Royal Canadian Mounted Police out in Canada, said to me, geez, Chris, we've never seen somebody that has so much fraud that's coming across. So I guess the good Lord, he was preparing me for what was coming down the pipe, and I didn't know it. And then my father came to me with a pension case. It was his pension case. Money was supposed to have been paid out in 1992. He got a notice in 2006 from Sarah Lee that they wanted to do a surplus sharing agreement. They found a surplus in the pension. And as it turned out through my investigation, a long story short, the money was 100% owed to the pensioners. The company had no right or title in it after they bought Fuller Brush in 72. So when I came across this, I also found that there was $15.5 million that was missing from the fund. Now, these pensioners, my dad, he was paid poorly his whole life. His pension when he finally left Fuller Brush was $3,600 a year. So let that sink in. My father also was not a very healthy man for many, many years. He had 7 heart attacks, 2 triple bypasses. He died twice in my arms. That also forced me, being the man that I am, to start to understand and learning about health. And today I'm very well versed right across the spectrum. I've got incredible technology here at the house. Firefly technology. You can look it up. Bales Photonics. I'll give that link to Simone there after we finish so people can look it up. I've been helping people in an incredible way. It's absolutely incredible. Incredible technology. I got into colloidal silver making that. I also learned about the power of oxygen with hydrogen peroxide, 35% food grade, and also cannabis I started to grow about 10 years ago. 15 years ago. And as a result of that, I've been able to help a lot of people. I've never been more healthier in my life than I am today. But what happened with my father's pension is that when I got too close to this and I went to a lawyer, this is what got me to where I am today. There was a $240 million, 2 class action lawsuits, $120 million for each class. One was the plant workers and one was the factory workers. And the gentleman that I took this to was Jeffrey Adair, Queen's Counsel, which I'm sure all of you are familiar with that terminology. And again, I was naive back in the day. And yet I should have brought it, but you can see on my website, I had my statement of live birth notarized by his notary in his office. So that's when I started to learn. I was learning it from Dean Clifford, some other people that were in Canada here, great man or whatever. But I was still struggling to really understand what was going on because everybody knows the rabbit hole that you go down here. It's very convoluted and there's many, many, pitfalls that you can fall into. So I think, what ended up happening is that when we got close and I had nailed, this wasn't just Sarah Lee that was involved in this, is my father. It was Fisco, the Financial Service Commission of Ontario, is one of the largest law firms in Canada called Blake's. All these SOBs were corrupt to the core. They murdered my father to shut me up. And when that happened, that's when I vowed, I promised him on his deathbed that I would hold these people accountable one way or another. I didn't care if it took me the rest of my life. So that's when I started really diving into understanding what the hell is going on here in the courts. And I had, respect from people that were in law enforcement. They knew me. And then I started to turn. I started to change from what they were used to seeing. I haven't had a driver's license since 1998. I don't drive. I travel with my property. And if I get pulled over, I just deal with it at the side of the road. I don't care what these people are going to do. But through this journey, it led me to an enormous amount of truth. And what started out for me trying to right an enormous, horrific wrong because it destroyed me and my family, horrifically financially when this all went down. It took me 20 years to pull my head out of the ground, get out of it. I never declared bankruptcy. And through the grace of God, we were able to keep our house. But at the end of the day, it taught me an enormous lesson. And through the grace of God, I do believe He's shown me a very simple and powerful way for people to understand who they are and how and what is really going on in this world. And that's why my website says, one truth will save this world. And if people truly actually knew who they were and understood the relationship that we have with each other, it would be very, very simple if en masse that consciousness existed. Because if it did, all that we're seeing that's going on in these so-called public courthouses wouldn't be happening anymore. A society that we don't belong to, called the bar, that's not practicing in law, they practice in fraud, construction fraud, as we all know. So these foundational truths have been very powerful and very instrumental in me helping people here in Canada. But we are at a position, and also around the world. I'm very blessed to have people from all over the world that call me, that tell me we've used your communications or discussions, but they have to know it in their heart, their mind, and soul. I can give people the knowledge. You can lead a horse to water, as they say, but you can't make them drink. And unfortunately, in this world, when you have to deal with this, you have to act like the man or woman. You have to have that in your heart, your mind, and your soul, and everything that you do. And you have to stand on your ground. And I don't fear any of these people. They're scared of me when I come into these courtrooms in the past. Now, because of all the COVID crap that's gone on, a lot of these courts are happening virtual with Zoom calls, and they can just mute people now, which is not a good thing. So that's why I tell people, still go to that courthouse, make an appearance, record it, and stand before those people and let them know that you're challenging the jurisdiction. You require them to bring forth the verified claim that a trespass has occurred. It's that simple. When you use the one word trespass, that applies to contract, it applies to wrong or harm, if you damage someone's property, whatever. Where is the verified claim of trespass before this court? And the second question is, who? Who is moving this court? Not a what, not a thing, because if they say, oh, it's the government of, it's the UK government, or if it's the local town council or something, that's not a man or a woman. And I learned that once you call that out in the courts, these maggots that wear the black robes, and all of them are, that are called, think they're judges, that they're not. They're supposed to be public servants. They're supposed to be protecting the property of man. And those are the three powerful words that I teach people on my website: property, trespass, and who. Once you know who you are, then you know how to properly and correctly communicate with these people that are operating in all this fraud. And if you drag it out and you stand on your square, 9 times out of 10, they're going to fail. I had a gentleman that was out in Alberta. I'll make a long story short. I'll give you one case example. He got befriended by a woman that was homeless. He was helping his friend that provided the soup kitchens and that. And this woman called him out of the blue one day, and she said, could you come down and see me in the park? I need to talk to you about something. He says, well, can't we talk about the phone? She says, no, 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 I don't want to do it over the phone. Please come and see me. So he said, okay. So he goes down to the park to meet her. He gets there, and he says, what's up? And she had a bag with her. She opens up this bag, and it's filled with guns. And he's like, what's that? She says, well, I thought you might want a gun. She was obviously setting up. He says, no, I don't want any of this, right? So he turned to walk away. He gets jumped by 4 RCMP officers. He gets locked up in jail for 2 weeks, and then he gets a lawyer that he retains to get him out. And then he's looking, by the time he contacted me, I think he was about 3 weeks, not quite 4 weeks out from going to trial. First thing I had him do was fire the lawyer, because the lawyer doesn't represent you. It's a trick word. He represents you. That's what the word is, not represent, it's represent. You say, well, what is he representing you on? I imagine I'm speaking to the choir here, but they're representing you as that legal fiction that was created when you were born, not birthed, in a hospital. And once you understand that, so again, I'll just cut back to it. So the lawyer said to him, I don't know what you're doing. He says, but you got a kind of okay case here. He says, I need another $7,000. It would have been like $16,000 or $20,000 this guy would have had to pay out in order for this guy to work with him. He fired the lawyer. We began our 3 notices process. That's what you need to do with everybody. You send them a notice of trespass. You require them to produce the verified claim that a debt be due, true or past due. Who's moving this court? And if they don't have a contract that you're in breach of and you've caused no wrong or harm to anybody, then all that leaves, and here comes that word, property. Somebody here must believe that you're property. So who, not a what, who? Who is the man or woman involved in any of this action that claims that I property? Produce the verifiable evidence that you have. Failure to act on those 3 things: produce a verified claim of trespass that covers contract or wrong or harm you've caused, or failure to produce the evidence that you're property of any of these people involved, then there is no court. And that's how you stop it from going. So when this judge came into this courtroom on the day when the man went to trial, we had done our 3 notices. And then once you do a 3 notice and they don't respond back to you, what do you have in place? It's called a tacit agreement. And that's a legal term that all lawyers know about. It's very powerful. Tacit agreement is simply that you communicated multiple times. 3 times is the key way to do it. You required the other side to produce the evidence to verify their claims that there be true in order for this court action or whatever they're doing against you, which you believe is a trespass. That's what your notice stands under. And when they do not produce that evidence in writing that's written and verifiable, right, then they have no court. So then you send them, we now officially have a tacit agreement, and I will use that tacit agreement against you in court. You also include with that tacit agreement and the 3 notices on the final communication you send to them, your fee schedule. Because everyone's being paid in that courtroom for showing up. I don't work for free. No one commands me or can compel me to perform without being fairly and duly and justly compensated. So I tell them, if I've got to come to this courthouse and this court is not thrown out, then my appearance fee is, then you start going after the man or the woman individually. It's $1 million for every man or woman that's involved, and every man and woman acting as an agent for a service corporation, it's $10 million for every service corporation. So we put this into the Service Corporation Alberta, right? The province of Alberta, which is just a service corporation. It's people that work in a legal department like McDonald's. I got nothing to do with them. Who the hell are they, right? So we wrote to them and we told them, hey, people under your control here, Crown agents, are moving courts unlawfully and committing constructive fraud, and all of you are going to be liable, there's our fee schedule, etc. So he goes to court that day, and I prepared him because these people in the black robe, they can be pretty malicious sometimes, right? So as soon as he comes out, and you always make sure that you get your paperwork filed into their court case. You can also open up your own court case file, but they're making it almost impossible now for the common law to take hold in any courts around this world. That's why the people need to correct what's going on in these courthouses. But once you get your notice of trespass, it's in there with the tacit agreement filed into their court case. You do that because the morning that, or the afternoon, whenever that black man wearing the black robe opens up his case file, he's got your documents in there that are stamped, and he can see, he can't get around it. It's on the public record. Okay, that's why you do that. So as soon as he did that, he comes to the man and he says, uh, I'll just say his name was Dennis for now, is another name. He goes, I prepared him. I said, as soon as you get in and the guy comes out and he calls your name, you say, I'm here, such and such of the family. I'm making here by special appearance. I require confirmation that you have received my notices of trespass with the tacit agreement and fee schedule. And then he shut up. And then the judge was a little bit flushed. He says, oh, I says, I'm not, I've seen this kind of stuff before. I'm not bothering with this, blah, 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 blah. And as soon as he said that, I prepared him for it. I said, you hit him with who? And you call him by the first name too. I want everyone to know that, before you go to court, you find out who the judge is, that man or woman that's acting as judge for a service corporation. They're all acting. Okay, they're not a judge of man. They're supposed to be providing good faith and duty services to we the people. He is a public servant that wearing that black robe. Even though he's part of a private society, he's working for a service corporation. Service corporations don't write laws. So when we got in front of this, when he got in front of this maggot or whatever, I prepared him for, because they try and play these games. I said, you hit him with a very powerful sentence. Question: Who? Who is moving this court? And he said it 3 times. Then the judge got real flustered, and then he's known as what is called as abandoning ship. He got up and he left the bench, and he left and he was gone for about 15 minutes. And then when he came back in, he threw everything out. He says, we have no jurisdiction here, and he moved on. So that's just one of the cases that I was able to help a man with. There's, hundreds of other cases that have happened. There's also many people that don't succeed at it because, again, at the end of the day, the man or woman has to be able to carry themselves properly in front of these people because you're going to be tested time and over again. And that's why I make things very simple for people to understand. So that's the long and the short of what it is that I do. I've been doing live streams for it's going on 7 years. In February this year, I have not been doing live streams since February because someone, again, the health side that I got involved with, a woman came to me from Japan who had Alzheimer's. Her daughter brought her. She was with me for 5 months. And after, when she was first here, she couldn't remember any of her family names, this and that. After the time she was here with me, we brought back her memory that she was remembering all her brothers and sisters. She was doing absolutely incredible. And then she went back to Japan. And before I forget, there's a product that I have to talk to people about. I don't pump and dump anything. I don't sell anything. I never have in my sites, but there is one product that everybody needs to get. It's called Masterpiece. And there's an incredible woman there in England. Her name's Carolyn Mansfield. Masterpiece removes all the forever chemicals in your body in 90 days practically. And this especially includes graphene oxide. I've also recently done a video with her showing, for those of you that are aware, that these injections that people got with the vaccinations, they've been putting MAC addresses into people with a biological weapon. So they brought over a wonderful man named Manu, who was from, I think, Croatia, who's like a technical brilliant wizard, and he brought all his gear with him. And what they did is this test study group that they had them all in a field. And first they made sure the field was sterile when they turned the equipment on, and there was no MAC addresses showing anywhere in the field. Then they brought all the research group out there, 23 people I think it was, into the field, and boom, 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 boom. All the MAC addresses started showing up on everybody. They could see on a screen as people were walking towards them what their MAC address was. I'll cut to the chase. After 4 months, 3.5, 4 months of using the product Masterpiece, they went back and they were retested. All the MAC addresses are gone. This is the power of Masterpiece when you understand how incredible it is. I've been on it for a year and a half now. Between that and the saunas that I do, I've never been more healthier in my life. And I cannot share enough with people that are struggling with their health. You must clean up your interstitial fluid. A man that I'm going to be working to try and get out of jail right now, his name is Dr. Robert Young. An incredible man. He sold over 10 million books. He's helped millions of people around the world. And of course, the Service Corporation, California, came after him because he's not licensed. And as I tell everybody, you don't require a license to do a damn thing in this world. Okay? You do whatever you please in this world, providing you don't trespass. If you cause wrong or harm to another man or woman, well, you're going to be held accountable and you have to do the honorable thing. Now, that doesn't mean you don't require a license, for example, if you're going to be operating heavy machinery equipment, if you're going to be operating a train or a bus or a truck on the highway or a taxi. These are all things that are in commerce on the highways. And yes, we want those people to be licensed so that we know that they are of sound mind and of skills that they can operate whatever it is, the equipment that they're doing. Other than that, you don't need a license for anything. That's why I didn't bother getting a license for doing the Firefly technology. I do that out of my house. It's a private agreement between myself and my fellow man or woman when they come to see me. I don't have a third party like the government of Canada or Ontario, the provincial government, sticking their nose into my business saying that I have to jump through all these hoops. I haven't paid any taxation since 1998. I did general contracting. I don't know if I meant to say that, but I did general contracting for 25 years as well before I got into the whole music side of launching that thing in 2001. And through that, entire time, I mean, I did my taxation. I never paid taxes because I learned you were able to write so much off. But when 1998 came around and I really understand what was going on, it was that legal fiction that these corporations are coming after for taxation. And that's why none of us own anything, because it is the greatest trespass that's ever occurred against mankind. From the moment that we're born in a hospital, they create that legal fiction. It's called personage. And they use that legal fiction. That's what we've used on all ID whenever, foolishly, ignorantly. We're all ignorant, like I said. And once you see the light, you cannot turn away and turn back from it. And that's why the bars are terrified right now from it. They won't tangle with me because they know if they do, it's not going to be good for them. So I've done everything that I can to try and bring this truth out into the light. But what I've realized after the last, I know I jump around a lot, but the woman that came to see me with the Alzheimer's, she went back home. And what, unfortunately, when she was in the care homes, and I'll tell you, if anyone has a chance to go to Japan while we still can get around this world, you've got to go there. I had an enormous change within me, within my heart, my mind, and soul when I was there. It was truly an incredible experience. The people there are incredible. It is the most cleanest city, the cleanest country you'll ever come across. I fell in love with it. I went to Thailand. Wasn't as clean there, but it was, again, the people were incredible. I fell in love with the people there. So when I came back, that's why I stopped doing my live transmissions in February, because I flew out immediately to help. Mayumi was her name. And because I make cannabis oil and I also have my colloidal silver, cannabis is illegal over in Japan, but I still took some over with me anyways. And when we first got there, just to show you the power of what knowledge is when you have it, her blood pressure was like 192 over 100. It was crazy. It was sickening. It was really, really bad. And she was already gone, because what had happened is that I guess she was with the Alzheimer's. She was starting to be a little bit uh, difficult at some times with the staff that was there. So what they did is they said they've got this medication that they like to give people that have Alzheimer's. And I told her daughter, I said, do not do it. Do not do it. But she didn't want to give him the oil that I gave him because it's illegal there. And I understood she didn't want to get the guy that ran the facility. It was only 18 people, and it was a wonderful young man and everything that they did. His wife was a nutritionist. She cooked for them, but she didn't want to put him in that position. 2 weeks after they gave her this drug, her brain was gone. Right. And then I watched the most horrific death over 30 days. I was staying with her in the care home there at the end. That's when I got to see the care that these people give to them at the hospital. It's phenomenal. So, but the part that was really, again, it just reinforced everything that I've been doing. It's not an I love me thing, but the oil that I gave her that night, the first night that I was in there, first day that we got in there, I gave it to her that night, slipped it under her tongue before I left. When we came back the next day, when they were doing her vitals, her blood work was 124 over 82. It was almost textbook, and they were kind of surprised with that. They're going, geez, that's good that it's come down. They had no idea. So I never told them about the oil side of things, but I did share with them the colloidal silver. She had massive sores, not on her wound from being in the bed for so long. Everything cleaned up remarkably. They couldn't believe it. And so that's what I'm saying. Knowledge is power, but that power is only going to work for my fellow man or woman as if you apply it. And that's why, for me, I mean, I've been talking a lot over the last 6 years, trying to wake everybody up. But the bottom line is I'm not, I'm a realistic. It's failed miserably because I'm like this little speck of sand in the beach. Nobody knows who the hell I am or the truth that I'm bringing forward. Sure, there's maybe 100,000 people worldwide that know this, but we've got billions of people right now that are consciously lost. They don't have a clue who they are. They don't have a clue what's going on with COVID-19 and the injections. They have no clue what's coming down the pipe right now. But as I'm seeing every single day that's going on in the UK, you're continually being trespassed upon, and now they're really putting the boots to everybody. And this is why the truth and people actually, I mean, I wish to God, someone like David Icke had the capacity to not just go out there and say, just say no, which is a waste of time. When you've got hundreds of thousands of people in the UK coming together peacefully to stop what's going on, they're failing because they look at it as being a protest. Everybody does their stuff and then they go back home and the shit still continues. I'll tell you, if I had 100,000 people in front of me, I would give them the addresses of all the people from Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister, all these people that I know that are at the highest levels in our countries that are committing this wrong and harm, and people need to go there and physically get them and bring them physically into our public courthouses. Okay? There's more of us than there are of them. And unfortunately, I've been peaceful the whole time for this. I carry myself lawfully. I don't cower. I don't stand back from anybody that might be trying to intimidate me. I go at them even harder. And 9 times out of 10, I win against these people. But this has run its course. We're at a point right now where, unfortunately, the only thing that this evil understands is a barrel of a gun. Okay. And it doesn't matter. I want everyone to understand something. If you came home right now and say your husband and your wife is in there and your kids and your pets and your house is on fire and you can see that, okay, but your family that's in there can't see that, and let's just say at the same time you were talking about doing some renovations to make your house better. Say you were trying to pull your home out of the the whole the legal system, so to speak, by correcting the name change and stuff like that. Are you going to continue to talk about anything else other than protecting and going in and taking action for your family that's in there that's burning in that house? No. Everyone's going to go in there and save their family. And this is the message that I ultimately want to leave with everybody here today. Right now, we need to find a way to come together, and we need to go into that house, and we need to stop this evil. It's not going to happen by protesting. It's not going to happen with the things that I've taught. Where the things that I've taught come into play is when I have the military and I have the police that are awake and they're standing there with me and we're surrounded with 1,000,000 people or 100,000 people in a courthouse. When we go into that courthouse, that is when we stream live how a man or woman accesses that public courthouse. They move their court and a claim of trespass against whoever the man or woman is causing this wrong and harm. In this case, we are talking about genocide that's occurring worldwide, not just what's going on in Gaza. That's the part that everyone, I hope, understands and sees. We're seeing the massive death and destruction that's happening in Gaza, the genocide, and nobody is doing a damn thing about it. Now, sure, Russia's starting to talk about things, Egypt's and that, they're all saying, yep, we're going to go in there in Iran, we're going to do our thing. Well, what the hell are you waiting for? There's a law professor at a Harvard there in Israel, and he came out and he said the actual numbers are over 400,000 people have been slaughtered. Okay? There's nothing more important in this world right now than what is going on, because what's happening in Gaza, they're going to bring here to our countries. They're going to divide and conquer. This is why they've infiltrated. They've allowed this immigration to go right off the charts, right? In every single country, this is all done by design. And I realize I'm probably speaking to the choir here, but the only way you're going to stop that is not writing notices of trespass or not coming together and protesting. We physically have to go into these offices where these people are that are acting for service corporations. That's what all governments are. They're service corporations. And service corporations don't write law. They're supposed to be writing policy to protecting the property of their fellow men and women that are out there. So that's been my spiel, I guess, that I said here so far. At the end of the day, that's what my focus is right now. I'm a man that understands law. Legal has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with any man or woman or people in this world. And as you all know, person is a trick word. That's why you never allow any titles to be placed over you. If you look in the Bible, it's right there, very powerful. Which they're pulling out of the new Bibles now as they're being written, is Job 32:21. And it basically says, I pray not you accept any persons, nor are you to accept any titles. Judges, police, all these things. See how simple that is? They're people that are acting in roles. And as soon as a man or a woman is acting in a role, they have no rights. They have duties and obligations. And their duties and obligations for the service corporations that they're acting for do not trump the rights of a man or a woman. We are the creators in this world. This is what we've forgotten. We've been disconnected from our consciousness, and all by design. And that's why we must do everything we can in this world to find a way to come together. And what I'm doing here in Canada, what I hope and pray with all my heart and soul, that we can find a way with police, because people are starting to see it. We've got a police officer up here, Helen Gurris. She's out in Ottawa. This is a woman that was in charge, that whenever there was an infant death, she had to go and investigate it. So when COVID-19 came out initially, she goes in, she starts investigating. It was like 14, 20 of these deaths, and she's going, what the hell's going on here? Then through her great work, she recognized and realized it was the vaccinations that was doing this. As soon as she brought this out into the light, they came after her. Her brass of the law enforcement of the Ottawa Police, the Crown's office of the Service Corporation Canada came after her, and now she's been dragged through a tribunal. She's been stripped of all her stuff. She's been found guilty. But I reached out to her to say, don't use a lawyer. I said, stand with me. This is what I've been trying to do for so long, to have somebody with a high-profile case to walk out into the light with me when we know the press is going to show up, and I just need 30 seconds in front of that camera, and I'll nail this thing home for all of us. So that's what I've been working on. And like I said, the police didn't come. This is her fellow officers. They didn't come to her rescue. They've hung her out to dry, and she's one of several law enforcement officers that I've spoken with, and some have reached out to me over the last 5 years, that saw what was going on. They saw that these institutions are being militarized towards the people. The people, there's another law enforcement agency in Canada here called the OPP, the Ontario Provincial Police. They've been completely weaponized against the people. They're teaching their young students. I had a father contact me whose son went into policing. Like, through the grace of God, I'm so blessed to have these people reach out to me, and they're teaching these young people that are going in. God bless them, thinking that they're going to do right and administrate the law. They're telling them that the common law is dead. See, and this is the problem that we have here. The common law, when people say, well, what's the common law, Chris? I don't have time. I don't can be a lawyer to learn the common law. The common law is very simple. We do not trespass against another man or woman. There's that word again, right? We do not try and administrate property without right. And if we do, then we are going to be held accountable. And you always have a right to face your accuser. So all these courts that you're going into here, if it's driver, if it's traffic court, if it's criminal court, if it's family court or whatever, you're always going down to who? Who is moving this court? And that court is always moving under what? Acts, right? So you ask that word, who? Who wrote this act? Oh, wasn't it Bob and Susie? I don't care if it's one of them or if it's a billion of them that are acting for a service corporation called Canada or Ontario that created these so-called codes, rules, acts, statutes. Yeah, okay. Well, do I have a contract with these people that wrote that? That I've consented to that? No. Well, then all that leaves what? Then I must be property of these people. So produce the verifiable evidence that whoever wrote this documentation that you're relying upon that has supposed jurisdiction over me, that I'm property, produce it. And that's when their shit falls apart. Lastly, I'll just say this. I know I keep saying lastly, but I go around, but I want you to give you the full spectrum. Masterpiece is an incredible, incredible product. What happened, only place in the world, Canada, Health Canada banned it from coming into the country, right? The SOBs or whatever. So they were making threats to Matt or whatever. He's the CEO, incredible man out in the United States. We ship it all over the world. Carolyn Mansfield is an incredible, incredible woman in the UK. I love her with all my heart. She is doing some heavy lifting for mankind like you wouldn't believe. So what happened is that what they started to see was paying attention is that I was always speaking and promoting Masterpiece on my live streams. So then Health Canada wrote to me and they threatened me. 3-page letter telling me that I can't do this, I can't do that, I'm going to be liable for it, all these things to cease and desist, this and that. Most people would freak out. If you go to a lawyer, well, they're going to start pulling out all the codes and actions or the Canadian Charter of Rights, okay? The Charter of Rights in Canada does not give we the people our rights. It's a corporate policy document written by people that act for Canada at the time. Are they going to come forward and claim I'm property or have a contract to produce that? That I've consented to it? No. So nothing. That's how simple it is. Unless you've got a contract with any man or woman acting in any role, or they've got some sort of evidence that you've agreed and consented to being that you're their property, then they have no jurisdiction over you. That's how simple it is. So I did exactly, I circled back to how I started out talking about the 3 notices with the tacit agreement. I wrote to the maggot, that's the man acting as Minister of Health Canada. He's corrupt to the core, just like all of them. And I went right at him. I said, I require of you to produce the evidence to jurisdiction that I've caused wrong or harm to a man or woman, produce the contract that I have with Health Canada or any corporation in this world that I've consented to allowing them to administrate over my property. That's me. My flesh and blood is my property, right? Because all that remains left at the end of it, if they don't produce that, is what? Well, somebody believes I'm property. But I also took it a little extra leg further because that's what I like to do. Now that they open the can of worms with me, I hit them with, I require of you to produce the evidence that COVID-19 was isolated, purified. Where is it? Because we've got 230 FOIs from around the world, the FDA, CDC, nobody has ever isolated, purified it. This is what people need to understand, the colossal lie that we've all been fed. As soon as I hit him with that, crickets. Hit him with the 3 notices and the tacit agreement. You give him like 3 days to respond to you. I got it all done in a week and a half between the 3 notices, tacit agreement. What you do is you email it to them all the first time, faxed if you can. Every time you send them a notice, you always include the prior notice with it. And then at the end, when you're sending the tacit agreement, your fee schedule, all these things if they trespass, because if you're working on I can always relate back to construction. If you're working on a construction site, say it's my construction company, and I've got equipment all up and fencing and everything, and I've got no trespassing signs up there, and you ignore those trespassing signs, and it clearly says trespassing, $100,000 fine if you come in here, blah, 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 and you jump that fence and you go in there and you're caught, are you going to be fined liable in the legal or lawful world for that trespass? Oh, you better believe it. That's why you use that word called trespass. So I let them know that if you trespass against me, every man and woman involved is going to be liable for $1 million on the private side. And again, every agent or officer that's involved is $10 million for the corporation, right? Once you've got that tacit agreement that's in place, that's very, very powerful. You don't back down from it. As soon as I did that, I have never heard from Health Canada again. And that was last November that happened. Okay? So I
Wow.
walk the walk and I talk the talk. It's the same with income tax. You write a letter, whether it's your council tax, whether I don't know what the name of the place is in the UK, their taxation department, but you just write a communication to them, Bob or Susie, whoever is the head or overseeing that service corporation, that division, and also write to the man or woman that's in their portfolio that's also acting for the service corporation, England or UK or whatever it is that they've got registered there. And you put them all on notice, right? Produce the verified claim that I've trespassed and that a debt be due, true or past due, right? Trespass covers what? Contract. So where's the contract? I don't have a contract with the CRA, that's a Canadian Revenue Agency in Canada. So where's the debt? If I don't have a contract with you, no man or woman's producing that evidence that's required, then that only leaves what? Somebody believes I'm property. So Bob, his name's Bob Hamilton. The guy must be 180 by now. He's been at that institution for so long. But you write directly to Bob and you say, hey, Bob, your agents and officers under your control. And I wrote to the minister as well. I did this back in 2003 because when I got financially destroyed in 2001, that's when all this stuff started coming to me like an avalanche of all this truth and knowledge. And I was like, what? Income tax? And I said, yeah, that's right. Why am I charging my clients income tax? And then I'm running around like a chicken at the end of the year, filling out all these forms for a bunch of people that have no jurisdiction, control over. I've caused no wrong or harm, and no one's going to come forward and claim a debt. So I wrote back then one letter to Bob Hamilton in 2003, and I never heard from them again. Today, we've got to do a little bit more of the 3 notices and tacit agreement. But at the end of the day, that's what everybody needs to do. That's how you stop the taxation. It's not only at the federal level with, the CRA or whatever the institution's named in the UK there. It's also at the municipal level. All right, your property taxes, right? Your council taxes. Just simply require them to produce the obligation that they claim that a debt be due, true, or past due. Obligation means contract. Put that in square brackets after contract. Kind regards, Bob or Susie. You send them 3 notices, and when they don't provide the verifiable evidence, they'll point to, under subsection of the Taxation Act or the Council Act or some other bullshit that they're going to pull up. Now you see how easy it is to destroy it. The Council Tax Act or the Municipal Act or whatever act you're relying upon there. Who wrote that? Was that not people that were acting for a service corporation called whatever your local municipality is, or at the provincial level, or whatever at the government level? Who are the people that wrote that? And you hit them with the same questions. Well, produce that man or woman that has a contract with me that I'm property, I've consented to it, they have a contract, etc. It all disappears. So I've been helping people with the taxation. Property taxation is the same too. And a lot of people say, well, Chris, you're trying to skirt your duty of being a man that's contributing, supporting your fellow man and women in this world, in your country. And I say to them, no, foolishly, people do not understand the creation of money. And that's the other big shoe that has to drop. Once we take control of the creation and issuance of money again, we take it away from the central bankers. Canada was the only country in the world that had a true public bank from 1933, basically, to 1973. And you say, well, what happened in 73, Chris? Well, that's when Justin Trudeau's father, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, he gave all our patents, which is the property of the people, to the business of international settlements. It's treason at the highest level. And from that point on, he started allowing a handful of people to create money out of thin air and then loan to the service corporation called Canada. And then this how they manipulate and create this massive debt that is supposedly owed. Just like in the United States, I tell everyone, the United States of America holds the debt, which is a corporation that's registered in the United States, not the people. It's like McDonald's having a debt, and then they go and they run up all these billions, trillion dollars of debt, and then they turn around and they try and force that on the people. That wouldn't last very long, would it? No, everyone would understand the way forward. McDonald's has to liquidate itself. It has to go bankrupt, and a new entity is created that's going to manage and handle and protect the people. So that's why they've converted everything from companies that were on the land back in the day in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. They dangled the big carrot at the government level. We're going to give all the municipalities this money once you change yourselves over to a corporation. And then through that corporation, that's what they used as their vehicle to instill all this corruption and theft that's occurring in fraud against the people. So I'll leave it at that, Simone. I'll let you jump in here if that's okay.
Oh, no, no, it's brilliant. I think you've got us all fired up, Chris. It's quite interesting to see how much you've actually done in 3 years. You've really done quite a significant amount, helping people, getting things on the record. And I just wondered, through all your experiences, I know you've had lots of success in getting rid of claims or falsehoods from the service corporations, as you like to put it. But has anything significantly changed in Canada as a result of these things? Don't want to
Nope.
pick what you're doing apart, but because over here we've been doing so much as well. But do we see any change? Well, actually, yeah, I think this year what we've seen with the council tax, there's been so much pushback with the council taxes over here. They're actually looking to abandon the current system, get rid of the current system, and bring in a new property tax, which is on when you sell your property, they're going to take a portion of it. And they're also looking at putting capital gains tax on your normal residential home as well as commercial now. So they're looking to extinguish the current tax system because they know the current system is flawed and a lot of people are pushing back. And I just wondered whether you see the same in Canada.
Well, at the end of the day, Simone, with respect, it's all fraud. So they're moving the chairs around on the Titanic. This ship's going down in this world, and everybody better prepare. Nothing's going to stop what's happening, unfortunately. They have to, in order to bring in this, as we've always talked about, the tagline New World Order, they've got to destroy the sovereignty of every single country. So when you're talking about these courts that people are being dragged into, first, I mean, there's a lot that was to unpack there that you're speaking to. When you're served a claim, right? Who? Who's written on that claim that you're being served from the cancel tax? I'll guarantee you the name's in all capital letters. That's not you as the man or woman. So what people need to understand is you need to fight back. And now I've been successful. I've got one man here in Burlington. He hasn't done the property taxes for 6 years. We haven't done ours for 3, and they stopped sending him notices. They tried to threaten him or whatever because he's got everything in place, showing that there's no contract that's in place. So you don't give jurisdiction. That's the most important thing. You don't go into these kangaroo courts and try and defend yourself or try and file paperwork in their system. You touched on another one that I forgot to talk about, the rules of civil procedure, right? First word that has to come up in everyone's consciousness. Who? Who wrote that? Go
Yeah.
back to my 3 questions. Unless the man or woman that wrote that claims that your property, they got a contract at your property on the private side, or the service corporation they were acting through when they wrote that, then those words on that piece of paper have no jurisdiction control over any man or woman. That's how simple it is. I went right up the chain of command here in Canada to the Attorney General's office, and I required him to produce the verifiable evidence that the rules of civil procedure apply to we the people that are promulgated from a private society called the bar. Crickets. So that's what people
Yeah.
need to understand. You have to learn that you, knowing who you are is the most important thing. And then the second part, I teach people to keep it very, very simple. You have to understand the words that you're using. You don't allow yourself to get sucked into their corruption, because what ultimately happens is that, no different than when I shared with you, that you put these people on notice. If you don't stop this wrong and harm trespassing against me, you're gonna automatically incur my trespass fine. And here it's laid out X amount of dollars. So what the people need to do is you don't even bother getting into court. You find out where Bob or Susie lives that's working for this corporation called the council, your local council, and you file a lien against their home. You lien their property. That will put the fear of God in them, right? And this is what the courts are very, very scared about, because they've been doing that to us for a very long time. There's a group of Mennonites out here just to show you how evil it is. And when you ask me if it's getting better, no, it's getting worse, and it's only going to continue to get worse unless people have these truths that I've spoken about here this evening in their heart, their mind, and soul, and en masse. Sure, I'm helping, a few thousand people here in Canada. We've been successful, but that's not going to turn this around. There's too many people that are lost. They lack these foundational truths. And when the one thing after next happens to us as this evil is unrolling in this world, they're turning us all against one another, right? And that's the whole object, to do: divide and conquer, and then destroy every single nation. We've got treason in this country going off the charts. They're bringing in an equity tax on people's homes in
That's
January. Can you
crazy.
believe that? The
Yeah, yeah.
capital gains now is over 50%.
What?
It's very simple to address. You simply ask, who is claiming that this debt be due or true, be it capital gains or be it an equity tax? Who are you? Okay, you work for a service corporation called Canada, and you better produce that contract, because don't you dare try and administrate my property, my home, right? what is rightfully mine without right, because if you do, you're going to trespass, and here's my fine. No different than going back to the contractor with the sign out in front. That's how simple this is. And if all of us had this truth in our hearts, minds, and soul, I know you've been doing some incredible work with people that are going back and changing the name and recorrecting the name, and people are getting their money, out. I've heard about this stuff for years. I've never done it. Just my personal side of it is how I look at it is that it was fraud that's occurred against me. The money is all fraudulently created. Like the bar, for example, I know from a past Crown attorney that the judges, they got two books, right? So every time you're in there in the courtrooms, that CUSIT number that's on the back of the birth certificate, that's what they tie into, that's worth millions of dollars to help fudge their books or whatever. There's two sets that are going on there. So it's massive constructive fraud against mankind in this world. And
It's
we are
the
not going to stop anything in this world, nothing in this world, unless we get into that courthouse in the correct capacity, we get the correct lawful warrants out for people's arrest. I bring Justin Trudeau or any of these other maggots in that have been involved in this COVID-19. There's no man in this world that I can't eat for breakfast in under 30 seconds in front of the world. That's how simple it is. You hit him with those three questions. When a man acting as prime minister, Donald Trump or whatever, is he going to point to me and claim that I'm property? Nope. Has he got a contract with me on the private side on property? Nope. Has he got a contract with the repugnant service corporation he's acting through that I'm property? Nope. So where does that man or any of the crap that they put pen to paper apply to I or we the people? It
yeah,
doesn't. Now, how
yeah.
long did that take me to explain to people? That's what it is. And people need to get that in their gut. And once you realize that and you see all this theater going on around us in this world, you realize that we are all spinning our wheels. What is required is that I wish to God I could get 100,000, 200,000 people like I see in UK, and I could get on a stage and I could say to the people exactly what I said to you here. And not only just tell them the way forward, but then we act in that moment. That's when we go into that courthouse. That's when we get the warrants out for people's arrest. And those people wearing the black robes, they damn well better execute those warrants on the verified claims that are coming in from we the people. Because the hierarchy in this world goes, God created man and woman. And then man and woman went and created governments, police, courts, all these things. We stand above in the correct jurisdiction. When you are standing there in the capacity of a man or a woman, we are the creators in this world. All of us are supposed to be created equal under the law. And the law I've just explained to you over the last hour is very simple. Contract makes the law. We do not trespass against our fellow man or woman. If we do, we need to be held accountable. I got in a little traffic accident about 3 years ago in Toronto. I just got this new used truck, 2007, but it was in great shape. It was a little longer than my original truck. And I turned a corner or whatever, and it was real jammed up in a construction area. And I guess I didn't allow for my back end. So I just caught this one guy's bumper a little bit. Well, it turns out it was an Audi, and it was frickin', $180,000 car. It only had a little tiny tear in his bumper, in that fiber bumper. I won't use the language I'd like to use, but to repair it was off the charts, right? So I pull off the side street or whatever, and he says, can I get your license and registration? I said, nope, I'm not operating under a driver's license at this time. I'm traveling, but I gave him a copy. I carry the passport with me. I should have brought it with me. If you read on the inside of your passport, it says the bearer of this document is to be allowed to be travel freely and without, any type of trespassing against them, basically. And should the bearer of this require assistance, they're due to provide it to them. This is what all the police officers should really truly understand. So I carry that passport with me. That's what I use for identification. I had my phone. I said, take a picture of me. I said, look, I'm going to settle this with you on the private side. This was my fault. I owned up to it. I wasn't going to play any games. Could I have told them to go and just gone? That wouldn't be very, very honorable, would it? That's not who I am as a man. So it's cost me $5,000 at the end of the day. I paid the document, but it never went into court. Never got involved, the police or whatever. And it shouldn't have been that way, because how it should work is that all of us should be able to have insurance for our property. And if it's not tied to a driver's license that, with your speeding or all these other different infractions that they can nail you with, that's the benefits and privileges that they're offering you. And it's like, no, thanks. I don't require any of those benefits or privileges. And every time I've gone into traffic court, I've got it settled before I get into court. Okay, that man acting as Crown attorney for Crown Prosecution Service, whoever the top guy is, I let him know. I said, hey, Bob, you want to produce this contract that you're relying upon that a debt be true or past due, because your agent or officer out there in the road for whatever municipal police force. And just, too, I don't know how it is in England, but over here in Canada, when you get dragged into traffic court, wherever you got the ticket, It's the municipality. So I live in Burlington. So when I go to court, it's not the police moving a case against me. It's not the provincial government. No, it's the local municipality, my local city corporation that's moving a court against me, that I somehow owe them a debt. Now, in all their system of legality, yes, it's all true and legit. But as soon as you call them out on the same three questions that I've said to you many times before, I don't have a contract with the Service Corporation Burlington. Same with property taxes. Their shit falls apart. Okay. When I used to go into court, at the last times I was in there, they clear the courtroom because they don't want people to hear what I'm doing. And one time when I went in there, the courtroom was filled. It must have been about 50 people that morning for traffic court. And traffic court was supposed to start at 9 o'clock. And it's now quarter after 10, almost 10:30. And the judge, the woman acting for the Service Corporation, wearing the black robe, hadn't come out. Well, why didn't she come out? Well, it's because of the paperwork that I filed in ahead of time. And she was actually kind of honorable because she'd been seeing a lot of stuff come across her desk where people are, playing this Freeman on the land crap or whatever, sovereign citizen. They still don't know who they are. But she was starting to see a lot of similarities. But my stuff was very, very tight, and she didn't know how to deal with it. So she was calling around to all these other justices, I found out, to try and find a way forward with it. So when she finally came back into the courtroom, they cleared the courtroom and they just had me there, first off to talk. See, when you appear in the capacity of a man, you go right to the front of the line. Okay, I'm not appearing as this little fiction here. And everybody knew before I got in there, they all had the notices, they all had the tacit agreement. She's reading this and she's going, and I went a little bit further into detail to be honorable and respectful so that I have to recognize that even there's a lot of great people that are bar members, believe it or not. They're great lawyers, right? They went into it to do good, to help their fellow man or woman, but they are ignorant. They've been lied to. And when you lay this out in front of them and the light goes on, I've got 3 or 4 Crown attorneys that have walked away from their jobs. They've contacted me, told me I've got at least 20 or more lawyers that left the practice because they realized what they were doing against the people and they couldn't stomach it. Now, a lot of these lawyers, they're not like that, right? They don't mind as long as they're getting their pound of flesh and their dollar at the end of the day, they're happy to do it. But when I did this in the courtroom, it was very interesting. And she said, that was her exact word. She says, I'm seeing a lot of this, Christopher. She says, I'm just going to discharge this for now. She says, until we can wrap our head around it or whatever. So again, at the end of the day, it's all this fodder and this convoluted consciousness that we have going on in this world is creating and allowing for all of this horrific wrong and harm to occur against us. And that's why it comes back to when myself or Simone or all of you wonderful people that are out there in the UK, when you know who you are in your heart and your mind and soul, and you know that you can move a claim of trespass against another man or woman, doesn't matter if it's Stommer, if it's the local janitor at your school, it doesn't matter. If they have trespassed against your agents or officers under their control are causing you wrong or harm by sending you threatened letters or claiming that a debt be due true, etc., you have that right to move that claim or court against them. And just imagine if we had that capacity, which we do, but if it was actually being recognized and enforced at these public courthouses, all this corruption would stop like that. And this is what they fear the most. That's why, for me, of the 30 years of research that I've done, I'm very well rounded and educated across the full spectrum, from finance to courts to health care, health especially, and off-world stuff as well. I recognize that this is the most powerful solution for us to move forward. When everyone around the world, and it just has to happen once. When one man or woman gets into that public courthouse with the military and police with them, when everybody's had enough, and they're lawfully standing there and they're moving a claim against Stommer to have him brought in under a warrant, or in my case, it'd be Justin Trudeau here, or any of these other flunkies that are operating for these provincial or federal service corporations in any capacity, they're finished. Because number one, they're not going to be able to answer yes to those 3 questions on property. Number 2, they're not going to be able to produce a contract that I have with that service corporation. And number 3, that's going to expose them right then and there that nothing that they put pen to paper, all these courts, all this theater that we're seeing going on the news and everything that's being continually hammered home to people to compromise their consciousness, disappears. And that is where the light will reside, within the hearts and minds and souls of our fellow man or woman. When we can have that right and we can execute that, I'll tell you, when I get into the courthouse, I'm going to be there for weeks. I'm not going to leave because I've got a ton of stuff that will correct so much wrong and harm that's going on right now in this world. And like I said, someone like Justin Trudeau, for example, or the current twit that's in there, any of these provincial ministers, as soon as you get them on the stand and you ask them those 3 questions to jurisdiction, where do they or any agent or officer under their control have any jurisdiction over I man? They better claim on property and have the evidence, and they better have a contract. They don't have either of it. See how simple that is. And you have to learn to stand on your square. You don't get sucked into the rules of civil procedure. You don't acknowledge any of that. You're always making a special appearance. I'm here to accept any and all verified claims of trespass. And when that verified claim of trespass does not show up that day in court, these people are liable. I'll turn it back over to you, Simone.
Oh, excellent. No, it's great. It's all good stuff. It's really helpful for our members to hear this, not just from us, but from yourself over in Canada. It's a state of being, isn't it? It's not just, having the knowledge, it's actually living it out as your truth. And that's the difficult part for, I think, for a lot of people because they still don't know who they are. But we're getting
That's
there.
why
I
you got to
think we're
keep it
getting there.
simple, Simone. That's why it's got to
And
be
you
simple.
do.
And that's why I've kept it simple. You can watch this over and over again. And what you've seen, I've continually hammered home. The only way any man or woman in this world has any jurisdiction, that means control over you, regardless of whatever role they're acting in, a judge, a prime minister, a president, a chief of police, a police officer, a doctor, they don't have any jurisdiction over you. And if they use any paperwork to try and make their case, well, this act, code, rules, or statute, you call out who wrote it. Who wrote it? Did you write it, Bob? Oh, well, no, I didn't write it. Of course you didn't. Well, who wrote it? Because you must believe on property. You got a contract with whoever wrote it for that service corporation, and you stand on that square. And once you get that in your heart, mind, and soul, it teaches people. I know exactly what people are going through. Whenever they get a notice or they get a traffic ticket or they're somehow being dragged into the system to be pillaged and, stripped of any further rights and your life savings or whatever, it is enormously stressful. And it wasn't up till about because like I said, I got a PhD in failure. You don't need to be filing. I did the same mistake as everybody else did. I was filing in 20, 30 pages into the courts, quoting all these case law and things like that. Case law doesn't apply to me, right? What has that got to do with the trespass, the verified claim that I'm bringing before into this court? Nothing. I don't care what other court cases have gone in another jurisdiction. I should have mentioned this too off the top. For those of you who don't know what the word law stands for, it's not a pretty word. Stands for the three jurisdictions in this world: land, air, water. The bar operates on the sea, water, admiralty law. We, the people, operate law on the land, that which is common to your fellow man or woman. We know the difference between right and wrong, and we don't trespass. And contract makes the law. Now that took what? 5 seconds for me to say. And once you truly know that in your heart, mind, and soul, then you're able to spin that around and push that back out there in any interaction that you're dealing with in this world today. That's what I learned to do. That's what I help people to do. Is it the solution? Well, it's been sort of a band-aid solution in waking people up moving forward. But the real solution is we must understand who the enemy is. First, it's ignorance. And then after that, we need to understand this evil that we're dealing with in this world. It only understands the barrel of a gun. It has to
Yeah.
get kinetic in this world. I've never promoted violence. I'm not like that at all, but I'll tell you right now, if they ever come to my house and they try and trespass against me, try and force injections on me or whatever in my home, well, I hope they've had their talk with God before they get here because many of them aren't going to leave, right? We need to, men aren't men anymore in this world, unfortunately. They become docile. They became dumbed down. We knew in our hearts and minds and soul, I'm not old enough. I'm turning 59 this year. Oh my God, I can't believe it. But I knew all my life growing up that, what a man was and what a man had to do to protect his family. That's what we're here for. We're here to protect our fellow man or woman, for the less fortunate, the elderly, the horrific actions that have gone on against the elderly, the death and destruction from COVID-19 and all these injections that they forced on them and stopping people from seeing them in the care homes. It's absolutely off the charts. And there must be accountability. That's the great thing about common law, is that there's no statutes of limitations. You can go back on somebody, your family can go back on another estate 100 years ago, 200 years ago, if you have the evidence verifying that a trespass did occur, whatever it is, theft of your property, whatever.
That
So
works in reverse though as well, doesn't it? So for example, it's an unlimited fine or life, it's unlimited time in jail, right? There's no statute to give you benchmarks or to give you guidance, sentencing guides. So it's the same thing. It's common law is very loose, but what I love about what you're saying, Chris, is the accountability aspect, because we see a lot of people out there with that attitude, no harm, no loss, no trespass, but they miss the accountability aspect, that when
yeah,
you do harm and when you do trespass and when you do things that aren't aligned to be in good faith, having conscionability, then you have to take responsibility and you have to be accountable. We can't be here calling out all these corrupt governments and these corrupt officials and these corrupt corporations and not hold ourselves to the same standard.
That's right.
And that's part of why what I think in our community, when I say the wider, broader truth community, that is really understanding and knowing this stuff, and maybe there's still a long way to go in terms of living that out and actually taking action with that. But a lot of us who now know this, we're still not fully embracing every aspect of it, including the accountability aspect.
Yeah.
We need to
It's
hold
very,
ourselves, each other accountable, right?
that's right. And this is the beauty of this. As I've been chewing on this for many years, I realized, just imagine when Simone and all these other wonderful people on this call here this evening and our fellow men and women around the world access that public courthouse in the correct capacity where they're moving their court, okay, before their fellow man or woman. What happens when that occurs? When you've got a jury of your peers that are seated? That consciousness is now constantly being corrected because they're seeing people moving their claims in court, and then the people decide, right? In common law, it's not for me to decide what the liability be or what the remedy is. I mean, the job of my fellow man or woman is to first and foremost to make sure that I, the man that's been trespassed upon, if my claim be true, is made whole, right? If it's financial, whatever, that's the first step. Then the second shoe to drop is, are there punitive sides to it? Was there something that was over and above the top of all this that this man or woman went through because of the actions of these people that requires further financial? So it's always the jury that makes the decision. And through that collective consciousness in that courtroom with the correct jurisdiction established, and people seeing, imagine if people could log into the courts and they could see a man moving his court against Stommer or someone's doing, you would enlighten the world so quickly and so powerfully that no bar member, none of these maggots wearing the black robes would ever trespass us again. They would never allow, there should be two windows at the wicket when you go to the courthouse. There should be one for legal. Legal only applies to that which is incorporated, and legal is
Corporates, yeah,
contract law. And the other one
correct.
should be lawful, where a man or woman is moving their court because there's another man or woman out here that they've tried to settle first with on the private side that wouldn't settle with them. And unfortunately, they forced them to move their claim in court before their fellow man or woman to seek the administration of justice. No
Yeah.
rules of civil procedure apply. You present your case, your evidence to your jury of your peers as you see fit. And then the other side, the defense, the man or woman that's there, that's why your name's irrelevant in the long and the short of it. If we go into court and a man or woman points across the room to me, they say, Christopher Pritchard over here, or Christopher James, he's the one that's trespassed against me. Well, my name is irrelevant. It's the man that's standing there. Is that the man over there? Because when you always know when they're cross-examining and criminal charges, is that the man you see in this courtroom today, or is that the woman that you saw? That's right. It's the man or the woman. So where's that verified claim of wrong or harm or contract I'm in breach of? And you challenge jurisdiction before you get into the court with all these people that are actors ahead of time, and you make sure the judge has got it, the man acting as a judge, and also the Crown Attorney's office has got it, so that there's no discussion. And when you get in there, you do not allow the discussion to leave your paperwork. That's why it's called paperwork. When the paperwork is written correctly, it will work for you.
Like that. You touched on earlier about the money system, which is a massive thing, which is one of the big reasons why we're in the state that we're in today, right? We completely understand that is the big aspect. But what we believe is that there's a coupling going on between the legal system and the banking system, and they go hand in hand. So this is, we know that the court's all about money, but we also know that the banking system is all about legal. Okay, one of the things that we've uncovered through our research is that the legal person, the legal personality that is given to you upon registration of birth actually is legal tender. That's written into the UN's own documents, that it has value, right? It is legal tender. It also says your passports are legal tender and your driving license is a legal tender. So now you know that the legal system is married to the banking system, and that's why it's so difficult. That's where you come up against all this challenge, because it's all backed by the banking system, and gosh, they've got so much resources where they've been raping and pillaging all the earth and every man and woman that's on the earth. This is the biggest fraud that's ever been
Oh,
perpetrated, I believe, in the
it's
whole of
huge.
history.
That's why they got us, Simone, right when we were born.
Yeah,
Right? They get you right when you're born in the hospital
yeah,
because this evil does not want man to know who he is. They
yeah.
had to create this legal fiction. You know, when you talk about this, you know, the monies and that are created on the, when I was dealing, his name was Jeff Adair, the lawyer that was for the pension case, whatever, that turned on me. The second lawyer I went to was Ian M. Angus. And I'll tell you what the M stands for is Molson. He was part of the Molson family. That's a massive billionaire brewery family up here in Canada, right? So he lived on an estate, and he told me that these people were all criminals. He couldn't believe all the work that I did. I gave him like 3 binders. I had all the information, but it came down to one line in the pension case that the company had no right or title to it. Meanwhile, the company's been stealing money from the pensioners, $15.5 million left. The pensioners never got their full weight because Jeff Adair dragged everybody back in and he stripped them after Sarah Lee had caved. And the people were too elderly, they didn't know it. And I'm not a lawyer, as they all knew. And yet my work that I gave to Jeff Adair, as soon as he looked, he says, "Oh, Chris, you must have missed something here." And I wasn't out of his office more than 20 minutes. I was sitting on the train coming home back to Burlington from Toronto. And he's calling me, he's going, "Oh my God." He says, "This is the most horrific case he's ever seen in his 40 plus years, right, of being, a lawyer." Anyways, that's why when that happened and it really opened up the door for me through the grace of God, he brought this into my attention right on the birth certificate at the bottom of it in Canada here. It says Canadian banknote. So here's the, I don't give a shit about this. Here's the birth certificate, right? The first thing you notice is that there's a comma after,
If you can hold it still.
yep, there's a comma after my last name at the very top
Oh
here.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Who writes their name first and foremost in all capital letters and who puts a comma? Like all of this is done by design. So when you go down there, as you're all aware of, there's the registration date, which is December 23rd. Well, that's the day that the corporation was registered in my name. I was born on December 10th. But look right at the very bottom. Can you see this? Whoops.
In
Zoom is not
tiny,
responding.
tiny writing.
Hang on a second.
Canadian
Zoom.
banknote. Yes, I can see it. I can see it.
Yeah, you can see it right there at the
Wow.
bottom.
Yeah, just hold it still. That's it. I can see it.
Okay.
Wow,
And what
wow,
does it say
wow.
above it? A birth certificate. So you have to pay attention to what the wording is all here. What is a certificate? A certificate's a financial instrument
Yeah,
that's used as a deposit at banks.
yeah.
When you go to my website and the 3 foundational videos, I show you right there from the central bankers. They brought this terminology out a long time ago, and they said there's a red number that's on the back of every. Now this is how my birth certificate was given to my parents. Okay, I had
Hmm.
nothing to do with this. You're framed in here as well. But at the end of the day, I was looking for the CUSIP number, and all I had was this number over here, this B or whatever. They said, well, on the back of the birth certificate that you're given, that's where this red CUSIP number is. Well, when I flipped mine over, mine came laminated, which was funny too. I think the evil knew ahead of time what I was going to be doing. I flipped it over, there was nothing on the back. So I said, well, Christopher's not going to stand for that. We need to go find that out. So I reapplied for the documentation to be sent to me. So then they resent it to me. And as you can see here, there's the top part there, right? That's the birth certificate they
Hmm.
sent, but this is the back of it. And there's the red
Oh,
CUSIP
wow.
number. Okay. Now, what is a red CUSIP number? As you'll see in my foundational knowledge videos, and they're very short. They're only like, 7 minutes each or something, 10 minutes. They're very simple. I really wish that everybody would watch them because it lays the foundation so you understand the trespass that happened the moment that you were born in a hospital, not birthed. And what it says on there at the central banker's website, I show you the exact web page. It says that the CUSIP number is a number that's required for any corporation or company to be bought or sold on the stock exchange.
Yeah,
Full stop. It's right in your face. A
yeah.
corporation was created in your name. It's all constructive fraud. You're not a legal person. You've never been a person. And people like to play this other game. They like to say, "Oh, I'm the trustee here. I'm the executor of this estate that was created for me." No, you're not. You had nothing to do with this when it was created up. And I don't go there with that stuff because when you do that, you open up a can of worms. Now, some people have had success. They like to play the UCC card. I don't get into all of that. Why? Because I didn't write the UCC. Words on a piece of paper don't control a man or woman. This is what you got to realize. And when you stand on that square, no man or woman wearing a black robe, no man or woman acting as a crown attorney, a chief of police, a governor, a president, or whatever, they're not going to get jurisdiction over you. And they know it, right? And that's why you've got to keep it simple for everybody to understand. First and foremost, know who you are. And as the good book says, for the truth will set you free. So when I came across this and I show people, I mean, I'm not making stuff up, right? I'm showing you
No,
the exact
yeah.
documentation. And this has happened.
So in your face.
to all of us. It's the largest human trafficking in the world. It's happened in every single country. This is what they've done to every man and woman. This is why nobody owns anything, because ignorantly, what do we do when we go buy a home or a car or a motorbike or a boat or land? We use the ID that was created by a service corporation called government, and we've put them on title.
Yeah.
That's why, and one of the greatest women too in this world is Anna von Wright. She's out of the United States. She's a past common law judge. Now she's got a shitload, pardon my French, of information on her website. She's got probably close to 4,000 PDFs by now. She's been around for a long time, but I have to give credit where credit's due. There's three people. First was Dean Clifford in Canada here. He spent 3 years in jail. He started to wake me up to things, but he was still playing in their sandbox. He didn't really understand how to totally get out of their sandbox. Then I came across Carl Lentz, Karl Lentz. Carl, what he did in the Royal Courts of Justice in England there, no one has ever done in the history. He shocked everybody when he came there, and he destroyed a Crown attorney with 2 sentences into the court. I'll send Simone the link, and maybe she can look it up. It's you can, if you put BC Law, as in British Columbia, BC Law, and then Carl Lentz, type that into YouTube. He's got 2 sessions that he did. They're each 3 hours long, and it is a phenomenal listen. You hear what he did when he came to the Royal Courts of Justice, and he destroyed
Mm.
the Crown. And the judge actually said at one point, he stopped the Crown. He says, you do know, he says that the Crown has never ever won in the history when they've entered into a common law court jurisdiction. See, the lawyers don't know that there's 2 jurisdictions going on there, and Carl had established a common law court with 2 sentences into the courtroom. The Crown attorney, who never lost a case in 38 years, I think Carl said, was ignorant to it. And plus, it's only 2 sentences into the court, so the lawyers are going to go, I'm not going to worry about this crap. This is no threatening to me or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, but he didn't understand the words that were used, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Carl destroyed him with 2 words. The other thing that Carl told me, well, you'll see in the video, is that when they had to go and file the claim, that there's a special window, a wicket window for the common law claims that's hidden within the courts of royal justice there in England. They had to go through a maze of different hallways and that to get down to it. And when he actually did that filing, I won't spoil it for everybody, but he did it after hours. He showed up at 8 o'clock that night with Bally. That was the man who was going into court the next day. And he needed paperwork, as I've told you, filed into their court case so that it would be on the desk of the man or woman that opened up the binder. And the security guard's like, no, you can't come in here. You've got to leave. You can't come back till morning when the court's open. And Carl's like, no, you're not. We're coming in right now. See, Carl's an incredibly brilliant man. He told him, he says, the courthouse is open 24/7. When you or I, we the people, when we appear at that courthouse, it's no different as if the king or queen is appearing. That's why there's always a judge that's on duty for on call for after hours, right? So after a bunch of pushing Bally back and forth between the security guard, the guard went and got the judge on the phone that was on duty. He called him. He says, I got a guy here that's saying he has a right, blah, blah, blah. The guy hands him the phone. Carl talks to him, blah, 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 in 2 seconds, hands it back to him. He says, okay, 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 puts the phone down, come on in. He
Yeah.
walks him right through the Royal Courts of Justice to that specific window, and they file the paperwork because Carl says, I got to make sure that this paperwork's before the magistrate in the morning. And when Carl got up there and started talking for Bally, it got a little bit tricky because Bally's last name was Mann. So when he started to say I man, it was confusing. The judge knew what he was sort of doing, but Carl got up and he started talking. And at one point, like I said, the barrister, he was wearing the stupid wig or whatever. He was shaking the bar so much that his wig was all falling around, Carl was saying, because he was so livid because he says, do you know what you're doing to our society or whatever? And the man, thank God, was still honorable that was acting as a judge. He recognized the 2 jurisdictions and he basically threw everything out after he found Bally guilty on all 13 charges. And that was the other thing. Bally wasn't honest with Carl. He didn't tell him all the charges he had. He only told him 2 charges that he had, that the councils had brought against him. So Bally had fired, like Stack doing the Freeman crap, stacks of paper into the court. He got nowhere. Him and Carl filed 2 sentences into the court the night before, the day before, and that's what he destroyed the bar with. And the judge, after he did the testimony or whatever, the judge goes back and he comes out and gives his reading. He goes, on charge 1, guilty. On charge 2, guilty. And Bally's looking at Carl. Carl's like, just wait, relax. And they didn't participate in that court. They sat there the whole time after his paperwork was in, and they let the Crown do their thing. So the judge comes back. He goes, guilty, charge 1, guilty, charge 2. He goes through the whole 13 or 14 charges, guilty on every single one. And then he pauses for a second, and the bar's there, the Crown, oh, they're loving this. They're writing down all their case law that they're going to use in other cases. And then what was the judge say? He says, And now for the common law side. He says, I've never seen a more idiotic, and Carl looks at me and says, you're going home. See, in their world, they can't hold an idiot accountable. He says, I've never seen a more idiotic
It's
thing
true.
occur in my life. And in that moment, it all ended, right?
Yeah.
And Carl, I met Carl in the flesh in Moncton. He brought 4 children back from their parents that were taken from them. You never refer to them as children in family court. They're your property. You created them. They're yours to protect and oversee until they're of sound conscious mind that they can go out into the world and act like an adult man or woman. So I saw Carl in 2 sentences again into a courthouse get 4 children back like that. He not only got the 4 children back, when they went into court that day, there was 20 people on the one side because every child had a doctor, had a psychiatrist, had a social care worker, a police officer assigned to it, whatever. 20 affidavits in there why these children should have been taken. They took the children from them because they came into their house and they found that some of the guns that the man had weren't stored properly, and he was growing marijuana. At that time, it was illegal here in Canada. So they took his marijuana, they took his guns, all his bullets, they took his 4 children that were aged 2 to 7, I think, at the time, and they split them up in 4 different homes. They hadn't seen them in 6 months. They were looking at 18 months in jail and definitely never seeing their children again. And Carl put 2 sentences into the court and he destroyed the entire bar. And I won't tell you the whole story. I could go on about it, but at the end of the day, when he did that, I got to meet the children and the family. That to me was the light of the world, that they know what's going on. Because afterwards, the Crown attorney came out. And all she did, like her husband got up on the stand, he was doing the Freeman crap. Carl couldn't work with him. And Carl just got brought in on this because he would do a live show every single night on radio and he would have people listen in. And he said, I'm getting sick and tired of people saying that what I'm speaking to is not the truth. So he said, I'll tell you what, this guy's got balls. He says, the next man or woman that calls me that have had their property taken from them, I'm going to help you get them back. Well, Jesse and Jonathan called him up from Canada here. He's in the US. And they told him the story, how they were taken. He only had 10 days before they were going to be in court. And he basically, where he couldn't work with Jonathan because he was too far gone on the Freeman crap, putting, stacks and stacks of paper into the court. So he worked with Jesse, which was the mother. And they put the 2 sentences into the court. He told her exactly what to do when she got on the stand. Jonathan was up there for an hour and a half, the Crown doing all these things. He got nowhere with it, right? Then they brought his wife up after she was sworn in. It happened to be the same judge that threw their... Quickly, I got to tell you, they first show up at the courthouse and you have to file your paper. They knew Jesse and Jonathan. They always gave him a hard time at the picket window. This time, when they showed up with the 2 sentences that Carl had written, the clerk looked at him. She says, just a minute. She walks away and they go, uh-oh, what's going on? They're going to call the cops on us again here, get us out of the court. She comes back. She says, the judge wants to see you in chambers. Okay? This is serious shit that's going on. They go into chambers. The judge offers them lemonade. He's being all nice. And then he pushes their paper that they just filed into the court. They're in court in 2 days, by the way. And he looks at me, says, I just got your paperwork. He says, listen, he says, we all want the best, right? Lying sack of shit. We all want the best for your children and what's going on here. So he says, but I just noticed in your paperwork, he said, and then he points to it. He says, I see you use the word property. See, remember I told you property is a deadly word to these people. No man or woman can administrate property without right. Those maggots wearing the black robes, we're not their property, and they can't administrate our property without right. As soon as he pointed that, he says, you sure you want to use that? You sure you don't want to turn it back to children because, we don't want to seem harsh. Well, they got caught up in the moment and they thought, man, what a wonderful guy this man is. So they changed it. They changed it back to children from property. They get home. It's an hour and a half drive each way, so a 3-hour round trip. They get home. Carl calls them. I won't use the language that Carl used, but you can imagine what it was when he heard what they did. He says, you get your ass back there tomorrow and you change it back to property. So he did that. So when she gets up on the stand, it turns out it's the same maggot that was in the chambers, the judge that's adjudicating over this. So after her husband got nowhere, she stands up and Carl told her exactly what to do. She points to the woman, not their title, the woman that's the head of CPS. She said, that woman took my property and trespassed. And then she pointed to the man that was in the chambers with the other day. And she says, and I require means demand in law. That's why you need to master a few words. I require the immediate restoration of property. And the judge was like, oh, you sure you don't want to work? Carl prepared. He says, you stop him, and you hit him again with it. I require the immediate restoration of my property. The gavel came down. Restore their property immediately. Well, the Crown fucking freaked, pardon my French, right? Everything went nuts. So Jesse and Jonathan left the courtroom. They could hear all shit was breaking loose in there. Why? Every affidavit that was put into there by these professionals, they're now liable because they were involved in the theft of their property. All 20 affidavits got pulled out of the court case immediately. And then the Crown attorney, the guy again, another 30-plus year guy that had never lost a case before, he comes walking out into the hallway and he's holding up the paperwork that they filed in. He looks at her, he says, who wrote this? And Jesse says, I did. He laughed. He says, well, I don't think you did. She said, why? He said, well, he says, because we're scared shitless. Okay. Because they knew now they're all liable under common law. Then he said to her, do you want a job?
Mm-hmm.
He offered her a job as lawyer. She said no. Anyways, they got their kids back in 2 days, which was great. Here's the real thing to show you the power of those words. 2 sentences into the court case. I claim trespass, and you put what the trespass is in square brackets. It was theft, right, of property of my children, did cause wrong or harm. And the second line was, I require the immediate restoration of my property. And then in the square brackets, it said, see exhibits 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's it. 2 sentences into the courtroom. You flip the page over, and there's the 4 exhibits, their property. No names, their children, the pictures of them. So as soon as they put that in, they got their children back, but here was the kicker. The sheriff came up to them that had been, again, at the courthouse for over 35 years. He knew Jesse and Jonathan very well. They'd thrown him out of the courthouse many times trying to file paperwork in the past. And he says to them, he says, guys, he says, I don't know what you guys put into this courthouse. He says, but for the first time in my career, you ready for this? I had to give back every bullet that I took. See, they had to give back their property. Property is not limited to a certain thing. Everything they took from them that day, they should have gone after them for the cannabis, but they had burned it. It was a year and a half earlier, but they got back every bullet. They got back every gun that they took, and they got their most important property back, their children. And now when Jonathan told me, now they really dropped the ball, Jesse and Jonathan. They could have been an incredible light for the world. And of course, this for case law, for us to be able to go revert back on, also for what Bally did in England with, well, not what Bally did, what Carl did. Those case files have all been removed from the court.
Of course they would
because
be.
they don't want people seeing that. See, and so that's what I'm saying. We can do all we want by changing and correcting our title, our name, and trying to stop all this trespassing that's against us. But the bottom line is these people are only going to act when they have the fear of God put in them. And unfortunately, that's going to be people rising up en masse, going into these courthouses, first giving them the opportunity to issue the warrants for whoever it is that you're moving your claim in court against. And when that man or woman doesn't do it wearing the robe, you haul them out by their effing neck. And you put them in jail right away. The police do that, the military. Next. Who's the next maggot that's going to stand up and try and deny me my right to seek the administration of justice? And people just have to see that once. Once these people wearing the black robes realize, uh-oh, the gig's up, we're actually going to be held liable now. We cannot hide behind it. More importantly, the bailiffs, the good men and women that work in these courts, they're not going to be ignorant anymore. They're going to actually know what these people in the black robes are doing to their fellow man or woman. And whose side do you think they're going to stand on? Because the guy in the black robe isn't going to threaten them with their job, because if they do that, that guy will move a claim of trespass against them. See how it opens up one door after another once we can get the ball rolling. But unfortunately, I think we've passed the Rubicon with all the genocide that's going on in Gaza. It's absolutely horrific what's going on in our world. And then the massive death and destruction from the COVID-19, it's by far not over. We've got massive infant deaths that are happening here that are being reported on in North America. And I know it's happening around the world. So that's what people need to understand. Back to how I started, we have a fire in our house that's going on right now. And we need to all ride out and face it. And it's not going to get solved by writing notices or doing tacit agreements or whatever, all this other crap that we're all trying to do to correct this system. This is a fight right now for mankind, and we need to all find a way to come together as a light, powerfully, collectively, and stop this evil. And we've got to face it head on. And if it gets kinetic, so be it. I mean, when you think of the people that died in the First and Second World Wars, they were all lied to. We were all lied to what was going on, how it was about freedom and all this other stuff. It was, again, the central bankers. Many of you may not know this, but on all of those corporations they create in our names, they take insurance out on. So when you die, they get paid again. Right? It's such a sick system. So we can spend all our time going down all these rabbit holes, learning of all the stuff that they're doing. I'm about the solution, and we have 2 options here. If we get to that courthouse en masse with the military, with the police, with hundreds of thousands of people, and we stay there and we start moving claims in courts and let the world see that in real time, stream it, that will be an incredible light to this world, because they won't be able to stop hundreds of thousands of people around a courthouse that are awake. The police, if they are good people, they are going to stand down and they're going to stand with the people. And if they don't, well, they're in for a rude awakening. That's what needs to happen. The only other solution, and this is what the generals in the United States I've talked to over the last 5 years have said, civil war.
Yeah.
Right? Civil war is the only way to go forward. But again, what happens? You got to walk yourself through it. Okay, we have a civil war. We finally wrote out all this corruption, no different what they did back in, in the United States there in 1776, how they, they thought they got their country if they could hang on to it. But again, the central bankers with the legal system came in the back door. They subverted everything. They created this entire system. And this is how they've enslaved us. And that's what it will go right back to, unless the people that are fighting actually understand that we need to establish that common law, that court. There can be legal proceedings in that, but that's for corporate law. That's for contract law. That has nothing to do with we the
Yeah.
people. And if we can get to that moment, that is the moment that will be the light to the world, and we will be able to truly turn this world around. But it's not looking good because ignorance remains the enemy, and we see it every single day. People are just being they're being threatened so much they're shutting down. You can't speak to people for more than 5 minutes, and I'm very grateful for everyone that stayed this long listening to me yap. But that's the problem. So we must keep it very simple, and we have to lead by example. We've got to find a way to show people how you get into that courthouse with the police, with the military, with hundreds of thousands of people. No more protesting in the streets. It's a waste of time. We've got to see action occur there. If it's got to get kinetic, well, so be it, because the militaries are being decimated. You're seeing a lot of military people in the United States that are disgusted. They're going, this is not our country. This is not what we signed up for. So you're starting to see everything is starting to crumble now. And they're going to push us right over the edge here very soon. And that's why it is in that moment that we're able to look to each other with the love and the strength and the knowledge in our heart, minds, and soul, and stop this evil once and for all, and truly have a world that we all know that we could truly have. So on that note, I'll turn it back over to you, Simone.
Thank you, Chris. Everything that you've spoken about very much speaks to and resonates with what we're doing. We talk a lot about the words that we use and how we need to have a list of don't use these words and only use these words, because you're contaminating yourself just by the words that you're using. And words create worlds, right? We know the world, God spoke the world into creation. So we know that speaking, this is why they use the words and why they undermined the language and inverted it, is because they know how powerful words are, and what it means to us, how we interpret it.
Well, the way forward for all of us is that, as I said, back to my original discussion, no man or woman requires a license to anything. Never use the word driver. As someone was saying about the words that you use, it's very important you pay attention to words that you use. You're not a driver. A driver is a commercial term generating commerce on these roads, these highways. What you are doing is traveling. And every man or woman is their God-given right to travel in this world freely without let. That's what your passport says. So the solution way forward is if you can get 1 million people. That's what I'm saying. It's a numbers game. If you get enough people that push back to, and again, it's not the government saying it, it's always people. Got to change your thought on that. It's people that are acting for service corporations. That's what governments are. And once you get that in your head, you go, oh my God, this is so simple to talk to these people. You don't quote their stats, their codes, their acts. You go back to those 3 questions. First, you address, where do you get jurisdiction to demand of I, a man or a woman, that I require a license to travel freely, which is my God-given right on these roads? That's what you simply address first. So produce the verified contract I have with you, or if you don't have a contract, well then somebody creating this documentation, this legislation, these acts, whatever you're speaking to, must believe that I'm property. So produce that verifiable evidence. When they don't do that, again, you've got the tacit agreement, but this has to be done en masse. Again, I haven't had a driver license since 1998. That's a reason for that, right? I've been operating, traveling freely. Have I had some run-ins? Yes, I have, right? It's all been handled very peacefully, very honorably. You always accept whatever documentation they're going to give you at the side of the road, because I don't want that man or woman to be hit by an oncoming car. I'm always respectful to them, but they're educating. I was educating 200 police back when COVID happened in Toronto. They were forcing the mask mandates on them, right? And they're like, how can we fight back? And there was a lawyer out here by the name of Rocco Galate. And Rocco Galante was telling them, oh, y'all got to give me, I think it was $1,500 to $2,000 each, and I'll launch this $1 million, class action suit, blah, blah, blah bullshit. Never went anywhere. And he's not even a lawyer. He used to be a tax lawyer, and we've already had the discussion on taxation. So the guys, it's fraud right across the spectrum. Anyways, when I had this meeting with, I had a Zoom call with a bunch of police officers, which was really huge for me. It was finally nice after being laughed at and kicked around and basically regulated to the gutter, so to speak, as far as all these people were concerned for many years. Now they were coming along, and they were finally saying what Christopher's talking about is actually the truth. And when I just simply showed them, why do you guys write people's names in all capital letters when you're filling out tickets? They'd never seen that before. And the light went on with them, and they started to realize they're not police officers, they're policy officers, right? And they started to get that. And then they started to get mad because they realized they are putting their lives on the line, sometimes unnecessarily, every single day. I mean, they're supposed to be there to protect we the people when there are people doing wrong and harm in this world. That's what they're there for. So back to your question, the best way to to go about this is everyone needs to start filing these communications to these people right now. But again, I know you're looking at this from a soul thing that, this is what's happening to the elderly people. But again, as far as I'm concerned with respect, the only thing that's important in this world right now is the death and destruction that's going on, the genocide in every single country. It's not just the what's happening in Gaza. It's these injections that have happened with everybody. They have poisoned mankind, and we're going to continually see an uptake in millions of people dying around the world. This is the most important thing. The same people that are trying to implement the driver license are trying to implement council taxes, implement income taxes, implement all these fines and court systems or whatever. It's all the same solution, that once you get into that courthouse on COVID-19, you've now opened up the door, the floodgates for everybody to move their claims in court against anybody that trespasses against you. This is what I've been trying to share with people. You don't need to get caught up in all this theater out here. We need to understand where the goal is. It's at that public courthouse. And when we can get into it in the correct capacity and the people in the world can see it and we have the numbers and those maggots wearing the black robes, what I would do when I go into courthouse, I would have all the black robe people that are in that building, I'd have them summoned to that courtroom. And they'd all be peering there before me with the cameras rolling so everyone could see. And I'd say, who here in this room claims I property? No one would hold their hand up. Who here in this room claims they have a contract with me on the private side as a man or woman that I property? Nobody would answer yes to that. And the last one is, well, then who in this courtroom acting through their service corporation has a contract that I've consented to being property? They would all answer no to that. In that moment, 3 questions, the world would realize that these people have no jurisdiction over us. They're acting in roles. I'm standing there as a man and I'm moving my court. I am the highest authority in this land. And that's what the world needs to see. So all I can say to you, I realize, what the governments are doing. They're coming down heavily on the elderly people. They're coming down heavily on people on taxation. Everything is going through the roof now. Food prices, they're destroying the food supply, everything. That's why we only have 2 things we have to focus on. We've got to get into that courthouse and establish properly the correct jurisdiction to move our claims in courts, or it's got to get kinetic, or both. And I think it's going to have to get kinetic with military and
I
police.
think both.
There's a great
Yeah.
officer out there in England that, geez, I just forgot his name. He came on my broadcast. He's been doing incredible work, exposing all the stuff that's in the background, what's been going on with the corporations and stuff. But I've tried to share them. You can spin your wheels on that forever going down those rabbit holes. There's no solution there.
No.
We have to get back to man on man right now in that courtroom with liability and accountability and warrants with power behind them, with teeth behind them, so that when we get a warrant out for someone's arrest, when we're claiming that they've trespassed against us, causing us wrong or harm, the police act upon it. Not the police acting upon us. I mean, I was horrified. I don't know where the men are in the UK right now. How they could allow, I saw people that were in wheelchairs that were standing there peacefully with the signs for Gaza. They're taking them out of there. They're finding them. Stommer's all proud of it. We got thousands of people arrested or whatever. What is it going to
No, it's
take? I mean, I'm
ridiculous.
sorry. You've got thousands of people out there that are sitting there peacefully doing it. The second that they put their hand on one of the people, all of those people should stand up and put their hands on those people and put them in cuffs. That's what needs to happen. There's more of us than there are of them. Do you think that this shit would have been allowed, pardon my language, 100 years ago, 200 years ago? No. If anybody came in and stole someone's children or caused any wrong or harm, the community would come together and they would go and get those people and hold them accountable. Right? There'd be no court for most of them. They'd hang them right from a tree. So I kind of got off topic a bit there, but it always, no matter what someone's going to ask me, it always goes back to that thing. So you need to first learn who you are, which you do, and then start writing communications to the man or woman that's the head of this division of government that's putting out this documentation, and require them to produce the obligation, right? That they have jurisdiction over you. And when they don't do that, then tell them thank you very much, and you give them your fee schedule saying, if you or any of your agents or officers try and act against me or trespass against me, here's my fine. I wish you all the best and have a good day. And that's it. And when you've got millions of people out there that have done this against these people at the service corporation, they're going to be scared to fart in your direction. I mean, they are not going to want to move. And this is what we need to do. That's putting the fear in them with numbers, using the law and using knowledge very simply and very powerfully. It's not getting physical at all, but where we need to bridge that gap is the people that are in the military, the people that are in law enforcement. These are the ones that need to get this in their heart, minds, and soul and realize the corruption that's above them. And they need to find a way to come together. But when I see like what happened with Helen Gruis here in Canada and Ottawa, none of the police stood up for it. That's what I'm saying. They're all in Canada. They just did a hiring of, it was 100 or 200 new OPP officers. I'm not prejudiced, okay? There was one of them that was white. The rest of them, you can tell, are all from outside the country. So that's what I'm saying. Unless you're, The common law is that which is common to your fellow man or woman. I should be able to go back 2 or 3 generations to have a jury of my peers sat, not people that have just been immigrated here. We've got planes coming into Canada every single day. There's 3 747s filled with immigrants. Every single day has been coming into Toronto International Airport, I was told by a guy that's worked there for 30 years. And the government is
Wow.
paying the same like you. They're putting up in hotels now. They're talking about, oh, you got to give up a room in your house. We're going to force you to take people in your homes. You
Wow.
see
Wow.
how
Wow.
insane this is? That's why we have to get these people into a proper courtroom and held them accountable. So
Yeah.
the long and short, again,
Yeah.
when truth is present, very few words are required. So I'm going to give everybody very incredibly powerful knowledge very simply and very quickly here. There are no diseases in this world. What we have going on is that our interstitial fluid has been compromised. There's no cancer. There's no
Mm.
Alzheimer's. What we have is forever chemicals have been building up in our systems for many, many years. And what happens is then what we start to see is
Yeah.
the result of that. So that's where it comes into Masterpiece that I talked about.
Mm.
Masterpiece, I'll put the link up here that hopefully Simone can put it forward there. Masterpiece is absolutely incredible. And one bottle, $75, and it lasts you 2 months. The test studies that we did was 5 drops a day, 5 drops twice a day to the people. When you're dealing with Alzheimer's, I had that woman doing
Mm.
7 drops 3 times a day. And what it basically did is it starts to clean out your neural pathway. It starts to clean out all these forever chemicals from us. And we've got this verified. We're the only ones in the world that have proven this. There was a lab in Germany that was actually testing this stuff over a year and a half ago. They were the only ones that had the electron microscope where they could actually look at a molecular level to see what Masterpiece was absolutely doing. And they were floored at what they saw was happening. So just as we were finishing the first test study group or the second test study group, the owner of the facility got murdered. It was horrible. So I'll jump back
Mm.
onto the Alzheimer's. So what you can do that is
Mm.
inexpensive, MTC oil and coconut oil. The ratio is 4 to 3. So 120 milliliters of MTC oil and 90 milliliters of coconut oil. Stir that up. Give that a maximum of 7 tablespoons a day. This is what the newborn, her name is Dr. Oh, I forgot her name. She's online there, but she was worked with the babies and the children, and her husband was an accountant. He went Alzheimer's came to him. He was a very successful man in his 50s. He couldn't even draw a clock. That was a test, right? Couldn't even draw a clock with the numbers on it. So she began giving him the MTC oil and the coconut oil, and in
Mm.
3 weeks he was able to draw a clock again. It started again. It's all about cleaning out your interstitial fluid. Once you clean out your interstitial fluid, cannabis oil is amazing. That's what we did with Mayumi first, was the firefly treatment that I had. It's very phenomenal for cognitive issues. I'll send a link for Simone to share with all of you that you can watch the creator of it and Dr. Oh, for crying out loud, Len Saputo, who I went, God bless him, it was like a pilgrimage for me. I went to Oakland, California there 2 years ago, and I spent a week with him, and I was floored when I saw this technology used. It just, you can't believe it until you see it happen in front of you. Same with the cannabis oil. When my father was in the hospital, I've seen, it doesn't matter how many times you see people, suffering or dying or whatever, and then they take cannabis oil and they're all of a sudden miraculously, they come around. My father, again, they were saying he was going to die in two days. And the first time I initiated the cannabis oil to him in the hospital, and I told everybody I was bringing it in and don't mess with me. I gave everybody, I must have handed about 30 DVDs on the floor. My father's blood pressure was 120/80 the next day. And it stayed that way for 3 weeks. But they killed him with an amyloid, and that, again, that's a whole other story. But at the end of the day, Alzheimer's is reversible. Another simple one
Mm.
is, this is why they've criminalized it in Canada, is hydrogen peroxide, 35% food grade. I'll share the PDF with Simone after this so that she can share with you as well. Basically, when you increase the oxygen level in your body, it builds muscle, it builds bone, and it takes out any type of parasites that you're dealing with. Parasites are the foundation to cancer, to all these diseases that we have. Once you remove the parasites, and this is what the firefly technology that I have is incredible for, it's a champ. I've had people that have come to me with neuropathy, where they haven't felt their legs, their hands, and their feet in 10 years. They couldn't walk. 6 sessions later, they've got full feeling back. Okay?
Mm.
It's
Incredible.
incredible technology. And again, that's light and frequency. That's a whole other discussion we could have sometime, because that's what I specialize in. Being an engineer, I knew how powerful frequency was. So when you're using the correct frequencies on your body, and we use light as the vehicle for transmitting it, red, blue light, and infrared light, it is incredibly powerful. And the things that I've helped people with have just been miraculous. I've seen people, like I said, with Len, that have been suffering with horrific diseases for 25 years, incredible pain, and they come and see him 3 times and it's all gone. Right? It's amazing, amazing, amazing stuff. Okay, so this is the masterpiece here. Okay, it's in a little bottle. It's there's only 2 ingredients that are in it, but it's how it's created that is the magical secret. So it's clineptonite, it's zeolite, and it used to be marine plasma, now it's sea plasma. So these 2 elements have been combined and put together. And Dr. Robert Young, I mean, they've locked him up, I think, because of this as well. That's why they put him in jail again. Again, I'm going to be doing in the next few weeks here a very huge thing that I hope all of you will contribute to. It's not money. It's not a petition. It's basically you'll sign onto the website there for the notices that are going to go to the top man or woman in the Trump administration, Donald Trump as well, to pardon Dr. Robert Young and get him out immediately. I mean, they put him in a maximum security prison. But anyways, he has taught me an enormous amount about health, about our interstitial fluid. He's an incredible man, an incredible light to this world, and he really needs all our support right now. But this product, again, I don't, a lot of these people with their platforms, they're always pushing this or that. Simone knows, number one, I've never asked for a dime from anybody. I've always helped people as best as I could. It came at an incredible, cost to me over the years. And I mean, you can imagine I'm being fed everyone's situations they're dealing with, that you absorb that and it really starts to break you down. But this is the only product that I speak to, that and the portable sauna that I have, which is, I'm in it every single day. It's amazing for detoxing. But this stuff is incredible. And that's why I say it's just the 2 component zeolite, clineptonite, I never pronounce it right, and sea plasma, and then it's created in such a vortex that it's been smashed down at the cellular level. So what happens is that when it's traveling through your body, when it comes in contact with a cell that has the forever chemicals in it, graphene oxide, right, what we've all been poisoned with, all these forever chemicals, it is the opposite. It has a negative charge to it, and the forever chemicals have a positive charge. So immediately it sucks to the cell, and it sucks out the forever chemicals, whatever the metal is, and then it dumps the marine plasma into the cell, which restores the cell to its initial state when you came into this world. It's absolutely incredible. And we've got all the blood work and the test work done on this now. We had a gentleman, one of the top guys out in Europe, that's a hair analysis, right? And normally he can tell through the hair what the uptick is, if something's being removed from your system. He says, we'd see an uptick of maybe, 50% or 75% or whatever. When he looked at what Masterpiece was doing with the hair samples over 4 months, again, pardon my French, he shit a pickle. Okay, it was 1,200%. It's a wonderful, wonderful, Matt, the owner of Masterpiece, who created it. His back end story is incredible. He's another man that cares and loves this world very much. And it's not about money to us. It's about helping people. And you're over the target when they start attacking you. They actually blocked the shipments we used to get from the marine plasma coming from Spain, when other doctors were getting the same pallets saying, oh, this could be used for terrorist or, some crap like this that came out. So we managed to find another supplier. And now it's just rocking. I mean, we've got the test results, but the MAC address was the recent big one. When it pulled the MAC addresses out of everybody, it was like, oh my goodness, this is a game changer. At least it's a form of helping you protect yourself from these, frequencies, these waveforms that are washing over us all the time. People don't realize how simply they're able to hack into your body and do whatever they want. And when they have that graphene oxide, it provides more of a stronger bond and vehicle for them to basically control us. So Matt's working with a group home of Down syndrome children, right? And they're starting to see a response with it. Everything is all a chemical imbalance in our body. So if you want to clean up your interstitial fluid, it's like the example that Dr. Robert Young always uses. You've got 2 fish tanks, right? And you see a goldfish in each one. Well, one fish tank has got some dirty water in it, and the other fish tank's got some clean water in it. So if you're going to treat the fish that's sick and it's in the dirty water, are you going to put more chemicals into that dirty water?
Yes.
No, you're going to clean up that water. You're going to literally replace it. And that's what Masterpiece does. We've got to use everything at our disposable right now, but it's just a defensive mechanism that we have to go on the offensive. And that offensive to stop all this, that's what I'm saying, is at that courthouse with the military force and police force, or the people as the force. And the problem is ignorance, right? There's so many people that don't get it. You talk to them and it just goes right over their heads. So I just hope we have an intervention here. We need something to come down from the heavens to help us here to turn this around.
Excellent. All right. Look, you've kindly and graciously given us your time this evening. I've got one last question before we wrap up, and that is what is next for A Warrior Calls, and how can aligned communities support or collaborate with your mission?
Well, the first thing that I want to let everyone know is that I'm going to write a very small handbook for common law so that we've discussed here this evening. It might be 20 pages, right? If that, maybe 30, very short, very nice big print so people can read. It'll be kept very simple. And that handbook, I started to realize, they're shutting down the websites over here in Canada for what I do. They're going to supposedly come after me, right? And they're going to shut me down. A guy named Sons of Enos, he was speaking about the central bankers in that about a month or so ago on an event that was carried out. The RCMP came and they arrested him. They put him out in jail, and then the lawyer that he used worked out a deal. He's been locked up for 6 months now, and he's caused no wrong or no harm. So this is what's happening. They're picking us off that are doing the good work
Yeah,
so easily. They can kill us, they can lock us up. So I'm not going to give them that accessibility to them. I'm not going to make it easy for them. So I've got some things that are in the works for me, but I started to realize, Chris, when they shut you down online, sure, some of your stuff is out there. I always tell people, always download whatever you can from the information that you find important and verifiable to you to help you work your way through everything from health, from law to whatever. But at the end of the day, we've got a hell of a fight on our hands here right now. So I don't know what else to say. It's moving forward for me. I figured that was going to be the best way to put out a book. It's going to be cheap. I'm only going to charge like $12 or something for it, $10, little pamphlet, but that'll be something that if people read it a couple of times, it will really get in their heart, minds, and soul, and they will understand the simplicity of what I'm speaking to have that correct conversation so that when you have to communicate and converse and interact and engage with these people that are acting in all these roles, no matter what their titles are, you will know how to be able to do it from a place of authority, a place of power, a place of strength, using knowledge in very few words. Few words
indeed.
are better than, like I said, there's only about 8 words you need to really master. At the end of the day, property, trespass, and who is always the big three, right? Property destroys
Absolutely.
everything. Trespass covers any type of trespass against you. And who? Well, who did it or who's moving this court against me? Learn that, and then you'll know how to talk to your fellow man or woman.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. For anybody who hasn't already been to Chris's website, it's a warriorcalls.com. Very easy to find. And everything that he shared this evening, plus hundreds of videos and other materials and resources, notices, everything is there on his website. So I do encourage you to go and have a look, sign up to his mailing list, get mail, emails, and kept up to date. And Chris, I just really want to bless you on your journey. You've been a phenomenal inspiration to so many people. I love that you keep it simple, stupid, right? We don't need big fancy words and big long dictionaries to get across what we mean and our intent, right? It's just a few simple words which are our bond, and it's really who we are. So thank you so much for coming here, giving us your time, sharing with us your journey. You've really inspired us this evening and fired us up. I feel really fired up. I don't know about you guys, but I certainly do. And it's been of great benefit. I'm sure that everybody here has been very touched by your experiences and the powerhouse that you are. So just pray that you go on to do even greater and better things and show us the way, right? And I think the numbers are growing. I think there's a great
Yeah.
hope for us. The numbers are going up. The legacy mainstream media is still out there pumping their nonsense, but there's so many alternatives now to the mainstream, and so many people have switched off from that I do believe that the tables are turning.
Yeah.
The games that they're playing, they're still playing their games, and they're trying to drag us into those games. But as soon as you can see it for what it is, you don't play. You stop playing. So good for you, and we wish you well. Thank you
Oh,
again, and
thank
and
you.
I hope you come back someday. Maybe in another 12
Anytime
months.
anytime, Simone, you want to have me back, as they say, the darkness has to come before the light. And this is what we're heading
Absolutely.
into now. We're heading into a very dark place in mankind. I don't sugarcoat things. It's very, very serious, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if mankind is going to pull through this, to be honest, because the level of ignorance is off the chart. And that's why we need to look at what is very simple for people to understand, and we need to act upon it. That's the most important thing. We can't do these protests anymore. They're a waste of time. We need to physically get active and start holding these people accountable. And the first stage of that, as my grandfather always said to me, don't put the cart before the horse. And that's what we're all trying to do. We're trying to find a solution within the system that's out there, and that's not going to happen. We've got to take this right back down to a foundational conversation that we all need to have with each other first. We all understand that the trust that we have with each other is the most important thing. We're not property,
Oh,
and that
yes.
contract makes the law. And when everybody understands that, then we learn and we see how we apply that in our world today. And that is very powerful. But as long as they keep mankind's consciousness focused like a casino right now on all these various different things, that's what they're doing. They're keeping everybody's minds busy and they're keeping everybody suppressed. And they're doing a damn good job of it. But I do believe that mankind will hopefully get out of this. And it's definitely going to happen with all the work that you people are doing as well. So I want to thank all of you because you're a light to this world as well. Right? Never think that it's only going to take, you never know where that one man or woman's going to come from that's going to make the difference in our world. So never give up what you're doing. Love one another. I love the British people with all my heart. My family is from out there, my relatives as well. I haven't been there for a while. I don't think they'd let me back into England now because the last court case that I helped a woman out with her children. I know.
We will have you. Don't you worry.
Well, anytime, love. Anytime you want to bring me back. And thank you from my bottom of my heart for everybody for being here this evening. It was a pleasure to speak with you. This is like therapy for me, too, that I'm able to share these truths. It's not about me. As the good book says, the light in the way, as Jesus used to say. Well, I'm not the light in the way, but the truth that I bring forward is. That's what I want people to focus on. If people want to try and debate me on what I'm saying is true, well, good luck. You're not going to answer yes to those 3 questions. And that's about sums it up. That's why words on a piece of paper don't control any man or woman. Get that in your heart and soul, and don't be caught up in all this theater that gets pushed across your desk in notices or communications or the news or whatever. Shut the bloody news off and start forming communities and start having the real conversations with real actions to hold these people accountable, because there are good people in police. They're not at the highest levels. This is what you need to understand. The head of the snake must be removed at all these corporations, because there are good men and women that are down below that are trying to do the right thing, but they're threatened with their job, they're threatened with their future, and that must all stop.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much, Chris. Incredible. Thank you again. Bless you. We'll speak to you soon, okay? Take care.
Hopefully. God bless you. Godspeed to all. We're all one. Never forget that.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Much love.